North. Yeah, she couldn't make it, so she let me know beforehand.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So all right. So we're going live stream now.
Yeah,
Okay.
we live now.
All right. So just let me know when you want to.
All right, you can please on the camera now.
Oh shoot. I'm sorry. I forgot my camera wasn't even on. All right. So I'm. All right.
All right, I think we definitely good. So it's definitely good to go. So that's okay. That's perfect. That's perfect right there. So, we are back on the Romans 2 radio show. This and this is a person that I'm going to talk to. I have known for a few years. She is a mother, a hard worker, very, very diligent, and she's very, very committed to her community, and also many women. And she is a founder of She Is You Incorporated, where there's a nonprofit where they are provide support services for victims and survivors of domestic violence, sexual abuse, and sexual assault. And also, she has a daughter that just graduated from HBCU on last year. So let's welcome
Spellman.
Spellman College. HBCU.
Yeah.
Let's get to Miss Shakina Rush. So how are you doing this afternoon?
I am doing wonderful, Mr. Howard. First, I want to say thank you again so much for inviting me onto your radio show.
Yes.
I don't take any opportunity to tell my story or to talk about the organization for granted. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity. And if you don't mind that I add that I am a serial entrepreneur. I do own a few businesses. I own Kingdom Builders, Kingdom Flaggers, and Kingdom Living Real Estate, as well as I am the founder of She Is You Inc.
All right, we will definitely get into that in a few minutes about how you start all those organizations, because you say you're a serial entrepreneur. So you do, like you say, you do a lot. You do a whole lot for people, and it's demonstrated as you're you're a servant. So who was Sakina with?
Absolutely.
Who was Sakina growing up?
Wow. Geez, I've never had anyone ask me that question. So I am the youngest of my mother and father. I'm the youngest child of my mother and father. So I have another sister with my mother, and I have three other brothers and sisters from my father. So I'm the baby. So Shakina was the one who got into all the trouble. You know, I was the one that, yes, I was the daredevil. I was the rebellious one. You know, I was the one who, got suspended from school. You know, I was the one who got into all the fights, and just I was the one in the family. I guess people would call that one the black sheep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but the story of the black sheep turns out to be the lion. So, I'm grateful that I experienced, being a black sheep, because being the black sheep, it definitely gave me strength. It gave me perseverance, and it just gave me like just determination. So I was always creative. Like I said, I was always like an entrepreneur. So in our community, the African American community, we might call them hustlers or what have you. But yeah, like I always figured out a way to create things, and I always had visions on putting different things together. Like um I had a club, with other kids on my block, and I started that, and I used to make jewelry and stuff like that. So I was the creative kid. I liked to dance, but I was always into academics.
Hmm.
I did go to school. No, I kind of lived a double life as a kid. I went to school, I did my work, but I still got into trouble. And I think that that came from, a lot of the trauma that I was dealing with, that I really didn't know why or where it was coming from, because the trauma started from the time I was, um, a young baby. You know, so I thought, all of my misbehaviors and all of my rebelliousness and stuff like that was just normal. That was just, you know, me. That was just who I was. I was hard headed. I quote unquote didn't listen. So I thought that was just a part of my makeup. You know, but it wasn't. No one, no child. It's just, you know, um, withdrawn or have behavior issues or whatever you may call them for no reason. It's always a root, it's always an underlying issue. And when people are not fully honest, or, when people are in denial, or when they're not aware, when they're not informed and they're not educated about, mental illness or behavior problems and stuff like that, they instantly put a label on the child or the person as, oh, they're crazy, oh, they're not going to be anything, they're not going to do anything in life. Oh, they just have an instinct for trouble, or they have an instinct for the gutter. Like, we instantly put all of these labels. Oh, they're a delinquent, you know, all of those things, all of those labels and stigmas were placed on me. And of course, like, naturally, when someone tell you who you are at a young age, you try to live up you know, um, to those standards. Okay, well, I am a delinquent. I don't care. I don't really want to do anything with my life or whatever. I do want to do what I want to do, whatever. When you don't have people that is not speaking positivity into you, um, you know, whatever whatever negative energy that's already there, it's just going to grow. It's just going to feed off of it. So,
Yeah, so like you just said something about like words do have power, and words create your world based on what is told to you when you're younger. Yeah, and a lot of people, like, we both live by what people told us what we should be based on words, and a lot of times we didn't have that mental capacity to shift that and not know until it's true until we got older. So to be with us what we say to ourselves. So now, like,
mhm.
yeah, so it's about, so what turned it around for you? So basically, was called those things. What was the big turnaround? Like the light that came on for you? Say, look, I'm not going to go this path anymore. I'm not going to be what people told me that was negative anymore.
Right. So, my life began to take a change. I'm gonna say, well, I had my daughter when I was young. I had her when I was pregnant with her at 15,
Mm.
and I had her when I was 16. So, being a teenage mom, and still being in high school, I was still in high school at the time. It did put like it slowed my life down a lot. It stopped me from, doing a lot of things, but at the same time, um, I think it just kind of it didn't change me, but it did slow me down. And I began to go into the role as, you know, baby mom.
Mm.
I was no longer my individual self, now I am taking on a role as baby mom, girlfriend. Um, I was kind of in I was living out of wedlock as a teenager,
Mm,
like, and a lot of people say, oh, they're young and it's teenage, but young people relationships are just as significant as adult relationships. Even although, a lot of young people, they don't have a lot of the life experience that adults may have, or they may not have a lot of the wisdom that adults may have. But everything that they're going through and experiencing is just as significant. So when I began to take on that role, um, I began to allow my life to be controlled. Um, like, it was no longer really about me per se, and who I was, and you know, um, what I really wanted to do. Now I'm just kind of living living a life as almost like a wife.
mm-hmm.
But still, I'm still a kid, I'm still, you know, growing. I'm still learning about myself. But I had to step in those shoes because now I have a baby. I have someone that I have to support, somebody that I have to take care of. I have a family now, so at 16, I had a family.
Right. Right. You had to become an adult like at 16 while you're still developing as a kid. And
Yeah.
and still in high school. So you had to grow up really, really fast, and adjust to that, and while raising a daughter while it's still
Hmm.
high school. So you had to a lot of things you missed out because you had responsibility. So a lot of things you couldn't in high school. Maybe you probably did high school, but you couldn't really fully enjoy the high school experience because you had to.
No, no. I kind of just I went to a high school that was very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a magna high school. I went to Parkway.
Okay.
So my high school, they were very supportive throughout my pregnancy. A lot of my teachers, they were supportive and stuff like that. But um I wasn't, I don't think I really was there. I don't, I
Mm,
really, because while I'm in this role as baby mom, as you know, wife or whatever, girlfriend and everything like that, I'm still dealing with depression.
mm,
I'm still dealing with, trauma and anger and just confusion. I was still dealing with those things, and I guess, being in that situation, the family dynamic situation, it suppressed it in a sense. But things only can be suppressed for so long, and you know um I began to allow myself to be controlled, um and just like thinking that, this was something that I was supposed to be. I was supposed to be controlled and told what to do and told what to wear, because me and this person, we have a child together, and they're supporting me in a sense while I'm still living at home with my mom.
mm.
So, I mean, just look at the mindset, um, that I was in. And it was just, it was very unfortunate to really experience all of that at a young age and still not getting the mental um the mental help that I
Mm.
needed, the mental uh support and therapy that I needed, because I actually was sexually abused from the time I was a young baby up until I was about 9 years old.
Mm.
So yeah, so that is the that's the bottom line substance of why I ended up in the role as mom at 15, 15, 16, because being sexually molested and abused, it causes all types of voids.
Mm,
Um, you know what I mean? That you kind of go throughout life looking to fill. And it's nothing, or you know, it causes pain that you go throughout life just kind of uh adapting to and connecting to and being drawn to. Pain kind of begets pain. Hurt people.
mm-hmm.
So when you are subjected to, I guess, pain at a certain age or whatever, that's all you're going to know. And when you're subjected to dysfunctionalism or toxicity, that's all you're going to know. That's all you're going to be drawn to. That is your normal.
Mm.
So um that was my normal. Being broken at a young was my normal. So living in a state of brokenness was normal, you know.
Yeah. So at this point, at that point you was broken and hurt. So what turned it around for you? What things you did there to get out of that state at that time? The depression, the brokenness, and the toxicity. What did you do to get out of that mindset?
Uh it took it took some time. It took until I think I got to about around the age of 30.
Mm-hmm.
And by that time I was kind of in like my second or third abusive relationship,
Mm.
toxic relationship. So what turned it around for me was God, just God.
Amen.
That's
Amen.
yeah, like God revealing, God, going to the root and the source of the matter. God kind of meeting and becoming who I needed at the time that the first um betrayal happened. He had to go to the beginning of it. He had to become my father. Um, and he had to love me like an earthly father is supposed to love his child. So once that happened, I began to heal. I began to become free,
Mm-hmm.
once that happened. But God turned it around for me for sure. I
Amen.
can't even, yeah, sometimes when people ask me, well, I'm not going to say people, but sometimes when I look at myself, like during it, when I was going through all of the things that I was going through, I see myself as like this bird, like with this half a wing and a half. I'm going to say a wing and a half. And the bird is pretty, it feels pretty confident. It's pretty secure, but it's trying to fly, but it has no idea that one of its wings is broken.
Mm.
So why while it's trying to fly, and all the other birds around it is flying, and this bird is flying, but it'll get to a certain height and then it'll just kind of just fall, then it'll keep flying up, then it'll fall. But it's still not aware that the reason why they can't fly as high, or the reason why they keep falling down, is because it only has a wing and a half.
Right.
So once I realized, oh wow, like that's the reason why I struggle so much. That's the reason why you know, I had so much trouble when I wanted to do things, or when I just was trying to be my best person, is because one of my wings was broken. And
Mm,
when I realized one of my wings was broken, it gave me so much relief,
yeah.
because the whole time I'm thinking like, it's just that's just me, and that's just who I am, and that's just how I am. You know what I mean? I didn't know that I had a disability.
Mm,
I didn't know that I was handicapped.
wow.
I didn't know how much the trauma um stole from me.
Mm. Yeah, but in the day,
So
I'm glad that you're here right now, that you overcame that, over despite what you've been through, you overcame that. And now you share your testimony through your organization, Sees You Inc. So
yeah, right.
what made you decide to start the organization? What made you decide to do it?
So what made me decide to do it is because um okay, like you said, I overcame and it was only by the grace of God that I overcame, and it was only by his love that I overcame. And oftentimes when we overcome, and when we get through, we forget, people forget, you know, what they went through, how they went through it, why they forget, and they just continue on with their lives, and they never look back. They think that I and I'm not saying everyone, right? But some people think, okay, now that they've made it, now that they've overcame, they're that that's it. But it's still other people that is going through, and they don't know how to overcome. They have not, it's like they're handicapped and they're disabled, and they don't know that they are. You know what I mean? So being as though I've experienced it, and I know, what it feels like and what it looks like, I had to do something to bring awareness to those individuals, like you are not, your trauma, you are not your
Right.
pain.
Mm-hmm.
You can live a normal, functioning, happy life. You don't have to be bitter. You don't have to be angry.
Right.
You don't have to be depressed and
Mm-hmm.
and you know what I mean? Like, so I just had to bring awareness to that, you know, that you are you are allowed to be better and to be greater. But
Mm-hmm.
if you don't know why and how, if you don't know what the problem is, there's no way that you can kind of figure out a solution. So I can recognize the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So once I'm able to recognize the problem, it's like, okay, let me help you identify some of the issues that you're dealing with. Let me help you identify why you're dealing with those issues, and how we can stop you from dealing with those issues, how we can heal from those issues. Nobody never told me. Everybody always just, labeled me and said, "Oh, you're crazy. Oh, they always just kind of just labeled me."
Mm.
So nobody could look at me and see that I was hurt, that I was in pain, that I was betrayed, that I was injured.
Right. And I agree. I think that we are not what we are labeled as. And I think what you're doing now with the CSU Inc., that you're helping women overcome that they are not a mistake, that what happened to them was not their fault, and like a lot of times
Yeah.
women or men blame themselves for it, what happened to them, and things like that.
Absolutely.
And the day you have to forgive. You have to forgive that person, even though it may hurt. It may take a lot to do to get you to
Yeah.
forgive, but you have to forgive to get a person. At the end of the day, forgiveness is for you. and for you to be free and help them overcome to help them do the work to help them get through that time, that phase when they were hurt, they were violated, and they get back their freedom and get back to who they are, because at that moment was just a moment. It was not just things that caused it was just a moment that in the day you had to get back up. You know what I mean? Les Brown said, I watched the video before you came on, and so he said, if you can look up, then you can get up. So you can look up, then you can get up. So, and I think,
and
go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, it's so great that you can say that. But oftentimes, like, we is the lies that we've been told that we just continuously believe, the lies that we tell ourselves. You know what I mean? So what I would say is, like, don't believe the lies.
Right.
Don't believe the lies, like the lies that you can't, the lies that you're not, and you won't. Like, don't believe those lies. Don't believe the lies. And it could be lies that mommy told you, daddy, auntie, the people in your community, the people within your place of worship. Don't believe those lies.
Right. Don't believe it.
Because don't believe the lies.
Don't believe it.
And forgive. Yeah, and you have to start with forgiving yourself, because
yes,
a lot of times, victims of sex abuse and domestic violence and sex assault and all of that stuff, they blame themselves. Oh, how could I have been so stupid? Oh, why did I let that happen to me? Oh, I shouldn't have did this, or I should have stopped it. I should have did that. Like, it's so much torment that individual go through before they even get to the perpetrator. Like, they're beating themselves up first. So if you waste all of your energy, like, beating up yourself, like, how can you really muster up the energy to, like, forgive the perpetrator, or what I mean, like, talk back to the perpetrator, not not all the time directly, but just say, like, I you know I am you will not make me you. Because we can take on the energy and the spirit of people that hurt us.
Right.
So you have to say, I will not take on that hate. I will not take on that abuse. I will not take on that hurt. I will not.
Right. And you should have to do that, should have to do that at all. So we want to show on time because it's been great so far. Where people can find you about your organization and the other business that you're running, where people find more information about it, and can you tell us the other services that your other business provides? So
sure. So right now you can contact She Is You. We're on Instagram at she underscore She Is You Inc. underscore. So you is the letter U. So you can find us on Facebook as She Is You Inc. on Facebook. You can also find us on LinkedIn as She Is You. Our website is still getting worked on. So just this past few weeks, we just had our second annual Youth Domestic Violence Awareness March. So we service, victims of sex abuse, victims of domestic violence, and sexual assault. Our main focus is definitely the youth, but our services is, available to all. We are a grassroots organization, so we're definitely open to whatever type of donations or whatever. But yeah, you can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And the other services, I have a innovative labor solutions firm. So we provide landscaping, which is Kingdom Builders.
Hmm.
Guys, Kingdom Builders and Industrial Maintenance. We provide landscaping, junk removal, trash removal, um, general labor services. Um, so we service the labor sector of many different industries. And I have Kingdom Flaggers, which we service utility companies. We provide flaggers to stop and slow traffic and protect pedestrians around construction sites. And I have Kingdom Living Real Estate, where we provide residential homes for people who are looking to rent property. I mean, yeah,
Wonderful.
looking to rent a home. So,
Wonderful. Like you say, that's a whole lot that you do. And on that side, you're a mom, you're a hard worker. So, what does Shakina do for self care?
oh man, so what I do is, so right now I'm actively, I attend my church, my place of worship every Sunday, Emmanuel Christian Center. I like to travel, and I like to eat at nice restaurants. I'm sorry, guys, I'm single, so I don't do a lot of cooking. But and and I just kind of um, I spend time alone. Just I spend time with myself. I'm gonna say I get facials, yeah, and I'm just grateful. So being grateful to me is a form of self care. So
Mm,
I find, yeah, like in everything I'm grateful for, because I don't take anything for granted that I don't have control over. I don't have control over how long I'm going to be here on this earth. I don't have control over, my family, how long they're going to be in my life, and just God is in control of everything. So I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful.
all right,
So yeah, that's what I
wonderful.
do.
Amen. And my last question is, what words would you say to your younger self now, based on your experience? What words you would say to the younger Shakina?
What I would say to my younger Shakina is, you are not who they say you are.
Mm,
You are not who they say you are. You're not. You have greatness inside of you.
hmm. Amen. That's pretty much that's what that's something that's we got to tell our youth daily, that you are not what you are told. You're not a mistake. You're not your last bad decision. You're not your last failed
And you
test.
never, yeah, and you never have to settle. Like
Hmm.
no matter what, like you never have to settle for anything. You don't have to settle for the last hot dog. You don't have to settle uh for nothing. If it's not the best and if it's not what you want, then you don't have to take it.
Right, exactly. Sakina, it's been an honor to reconnect with you. Interview Will as well. Like I said, check out our website or page, CSU Inc. To follow up more information. We're definitely gonna collab, just because we want to have this conversation with our young women and men to be healed,
Hmm.
through
Yes.
their experience that they experienced that wasn't that they didn't ask for,
And
so
healing is possible.
yes it is. Yes it is. Healing is possible and necessary. Yeah, so
Yeah,
and like I said, thank you so much to be part of this. We'll definitely continue to connect. Say hi to your daughter for me. I know she's doing well. I know she's
I
doing being
will.
blessed. I know she's
Yes.
doing outstanding things like she always have. So I know her.
She's a
So
teacher now.
oh man, oh man,
Yeah.
that's a kid. Uh
She
oh,
teaches eighth grade.
eighth. Oh
Yep.
man, oh man. Oh, I see a principal down the line. Principal.
We receive it. I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but
Yep.
the rest of Saturday, we'll definitely catch up and continue to stay connected. But thank you so much.
Thank you too, Mr. Howard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy
Appreciate it.
Saturday.
You too.
All right. Take care.
You too.